And we are live. Welcome. My name is Hiko Simon. This is Tokyo Tonight. Good to see you. Sorry about the fuss logging in. I'm a few minutes late. Hope everybody is good today. Been running around a bit tonight, but yeah. What a day. Um, Nice to see we've already got people here in the chat. Who have we got in here? We've got DJay Sunnyside Up claims the first place. Good to see. We've got Shubis in at second. We've got Lara Mutsuyo in at third. Kerberos Tenshi, time for coffee, no cookies. Fifth, Yuri the Best in Ukraine. Nice global coverage there. Tudom. Still got a bit of a cough. I've had a bit of a cold this week. Although I did get the half marathon done yesterday. That was the big news for me of the week. Seb, good to see you, Seb. Who else we got in here? Believe in Yourself. I'm from Canada. Indeed, tech features are a definite feature of the show. Tech squirrels are squirreling. We've got Dan H. You've got questions. I think, yeah, you'd have questions if there were no technical features, indeed. Yes, and who else we got in here? I think I just got a message before the show as well that, yes, going to have to talk about the big news of the day. Which, yes, we're going to do that. Black Tengu, man from Greece, good to have you in here. And everybody else. I think we've covered everyone for now. Do say hello if you're watching. Do keep me company. Aaron, good to see you, Aaron. Our moderator is in the room. Boom. As promised, the elephant in the room. Of course, today, terrible incident where we lost Dr. Ruth Westenheimer. I don't know. I don't know that much about her. She was very old. She talks a lot about sex with a kind of a slightly scary German accent. She used to be on like Donahue all the time when I was a kid, although I didn't really understand like why. But yeah, of course, no, that's not really the big news of the. I mean, there's big news of the day. Really big news is, of course, we also lost Richard Simmons today. Um, I don't know. Richard Simmons was on a lot of kids shows that I can recall when I was a kid growing up, so that was a definite thing. Richard Simmons, yes, pouring one out for him. He was a very nice man. Very, again, you don't know how anyone necessarily is in real life, but he seemed consistent enough to be, yes, I think everyone can say seemed like a very nice guy. And again, the old enthusiastic aerobics thing. So there was definitely that. The really big news for me was yesterday. I ran a half marathon at night last night. I had a fever during the week last week and a cold, so I stopped running. I stopped all my preparation, and I wasn't going to run if I had a fever like a day before the race. It really only spiked on Tuesday after I went for a run, but I wasn't feeling that good before the run, so it was a cold. So I focused on just getting better. And I stayed in this room. I didn't exercise. I left the aircon on to try to get cool. So I basically went in not really race ready, and yeah, with the race, I don't know if we'll get to it in the tweets, but for what it's worth, I talked about this last week. How I just wanted to run a race for the first time where I didn't like kill myself in the beginning and drop off over the whole race and just feel miserable by the end. I wanted to run the race at a slower pace than I intended to, so I could be more comfortable, so that I could finish the race feeling like I could do a full marathon someday. And I did that. I went. We were very lucky here. It was actually raining just before the race, which cooled everything off nicely. I ran during sunset, finished it at night time. It was going around a park by the ocean, so the temperatures were perfect. I couldn't have asked for better conditions. And yeah, other than running slightly faster than I planned to, I did run perfectly where I was going faster throughout. I meant to run more slowly. I still had a bit of the cold, and probably, I went a bit deeper into my lungs because of that, but I'm pretty much shaking it off by the time I'd run. And yeah, I actually ran 10 seconds faster. I was planning to run 2 hours, and not try to run faster than that, but I actually ran 1 hour 45 and 26 seconds, which is like 10 seconds faster than the last one I ran in Yokohama, which I ran really fast, but it was during the day. And extremely hot. I got very sunburned, and I was miserable. And I didn't feel like I could have run another kilometer. Whereas this one, I felt like, yeah, at that pace, I could have kept going. At the end, I ran very hard at the end. So, of course, I felt miserable. You're supposed to feel miserable at the end. I've had to ice up my knees today. But yeah, I did feel like if I had gone at the pace I went for the first 15K, I probably could have gone a lot longer. So I definitely wouldn't enjoy a full marathon, but this was the first time where I finished and I felt like I could do one. So let me have some water anyway. Dr. Ruth, 8 days past her 96th birthday. Well, there you go. So yeah, it was nice in the sense that it was the first time I've done a run like that where I was sticking to the plan. And the music that I made the other day, I redid the mix the other day that you were all listening to. I was listening to that during the whole run, and that helped me stick to my pace and not change the plan and increase the speed too early or do anything like that. So that was really cool. Of course, when I got back, there were like 20 international matches. Basically every rugby playing nation in the world was playing an international yesterday. So I got back at like, geez, nearly, 10:30 at night, maybe 11 o'clock at night, and I had to watch New Zealand play England, followed by South Africa, Ireland, followed by Australia, Wales, followed by Argentina, South Africa, followed by Georgia, Japan. And I watched all this rugby. So, but I always knew that, if I turn on social media, because I follow the New Zealand rugby team's like social media accounts, I'm going to see the result. So I had to black myself out completely of media until I've caught up watching all the rugby, which I did this morning. And so it was finally about midday when I finally finished watching all the rugby, feeling very satisfied. That then I went to go and what was it? Post photos, just info about my marathon. In fact, actually, yeah, I was logging into the BBC, and then I saw the top story, which was, of course, the shooting today. And I don't know what to really say about that. It was kind of interesting. There were some people who sort of loudly went off Twitter saying, I refuse to be in this cesspool of porn bots and Elon Musk and right-wing extremists and bots, and so I am leaving this platform forever. These people came back to come and say, okay, everybody, don't jump to conclusions about this. Everybody just wait for information. I'm sort of like, so you're back to tell everybody to shut up. I mean, the reason I logged into Twitter was, one, I could immediately find videos of what happened. And two, you want to find out who did it, right? And at least at the time, what information there was there. So did I sleep? Yes, I did sleep. I slept at about midnight. I woke up and I watched the games in the morning, which is why I didn't see the news until this morning. By the way, thank you for the congrats. And yeah, the race went really well. So thank you. German American. So there you go. Yeah, she was indeed 96, as Black Tengu pointed out. So yes, God, if he or she exists, moves in mysterious ways. Took Dr. Ruth and Richard Simmons, but Trump, only had a grazed ear. So I don't know. I feel like I'm removed from this, and to me, the people involved are cartoon characters, and I have a policy about not talking about U.S. politics because Americans are just so crazy about all the stuff. However, look, at the end of the day, while of course it's kind of shocking, I mean, what do you expect in a country where, any nut job can get a gun, especially a place like Pennsylvania, that a 20-year-old isn't going to get a rifle and try to get famous. And again, a person who campaigns against gun control, and I doubt this is going to change his mind either. The thing that when I was talking to a couple of Japanese people and was looking online in Japanese, everybody in Japan seemed to have the same reaction. That photo, and I'm sure you know what I mean when I say that photo, that apparently a Pulitzer award-winning journalist, a photographer, ran while the bullets were still flying, ran directly under the podium towards the gunfire to take that photo with the American flag in the background and the Secret Service and him raising his fist and the hero pose. I mean, I'm just sitting here, from here, that photo, I think honestly, Trump won the election. Just Biden is an intelligent guy, and I'm not saying he's lost his marbles, but clearly his cognitive functions between his probably still quite well functioning brain and his ability to express it is clearly breaking down. And when you think about how important communications are for the role of president, he's just too old and he's been showing signs of senility all week. And, when you say it, some people get really upset by it, but he's senile. And I was saying, hey, like America's biggest, most important country in the world, and you're letting a felon win it by default. I think it was already sewn up for Trump, honestly. He could have just, all he had to do was just talk. Not even normally. Nobody expects Trump to, if Biden does a gaffe, everyone knows that he knows better, and that's why they're worried about him. If Trump does a gaffe, they just assume he never knew in the first place. So there's no risk of cognitive decline per se. He's functioned the same as he's always functioned. But that photo, I think, if it wasn't already won, and I think it probably, honestly, it's already no longer a contest because the Democrats haven't put forward a viable candidate, or that they don't have the courage to. I think this won it for Trump, for everything that means, which honestly for me, I can try to be philosophical and look at the positives. It's true that America didn't get into any wars during, for the first time, I think, in how many presidents, in possibly 100 years. First time America hasn't gotten involved in a new war. Yeah, by and large, I don't think it's a good thing. But that said, that photo won it. That was an amazing photo. So crazy day. Of course, I'm curious, like everybody else, what the actual motivation of the shooter was, and we might never know because he was shot. But there again, they all had guns on him, and they were watching the guy for a few minutes, and they let him fire a few shots, and then they shot him. It's like, are you supposed to shoot him before? There's a guy with a gun on a roof, and they shot him within like a second of him firing the shot. So that part of it as well. The conspiracy theorists are going to go nuts with this. They're going to say that the Secret Service set it up. And all the people who believe that Trump's fighting the deep state will all be in on this as well. I think it's going to make the crazies more crazy. The fact that we still have 4 months of the election as well, where all this is just going to get more insane. Yeah, it looks like it makes me a little bit afraid for America, but I'm still afraid for America. It gets worse. I am actually glad, of course, that the president's okay. But the president, God, I'm already calling. He's an ex-president, but I think he's going to be the next president because that's the way the American system works. But I'm glad that he's okay. I wouldn't wish him physical harm, but geez, what a mess, eh? So I don't know. I guess we're going to. But I can't see how, in the end of the day, this is not going to end up being something that he's going to get huge mileage out of, and is going to use to his advantage with the next election. So we'll see what happens with that. Is Japan remembering Abe after what happened to Trump? I didn't watch the NHK news tonight, so I didn't see a mention of that. But I saw journalists in Japan talking about it. Certainly, I think it's almost the anniversary of the Abe assassination. Some of the darker, humid people pointing out that the Abe assassin succeeded literally with a couple of pipes. He literally MacGyvered, like when we used to use the word MacGyver MacGyver was anti-gun, but if MacGyver was to MacGyver a gun, that's what he'd do. He'd get some PVC pipe and a battery and some wire and a 2x4, and he'd make a gun that would work. And this person, in this case, in America, for all the guns in America, America has a shooting problem. This is some dark humor, but it does remind me, and it is part of the talk about how, the Abe assassin was successful with much less resources than in terms of how hard it is to get a firearm in Japan. If you say America has a shooting problem, it reminds me, this is bad taste. But the movie Airplane or Flying High, where the pilot Stryker, the main guy in the movie, ever since that day in Macho Grande, he's had this terrible drinking problem, and he gets the glass, and his drinking problem is that he throws the drink on his face when he tries to drink it. This is a bit like America has a shooting problem. I don't know. That's a horrible way of looking at it. I am glad that nothing happened. I'm sure this won't awaken America up to the problem that, maybe guns aren't a good idea. But there we are. There were good guys with guns there, but the guy got 5 free shots at him, including one that actually did hit his head. It was remarkable. Honestly, it was that's it. The election's like won. Democrats can't win now. That's my view. So crazy day, crazy day. Those are my thoughts since I know people are asking. But yeah, and I don't know if it's necessarily Alzheimer's. You can tell that. I think Biden knows. It's the problem is it's just the aging. It's the cognitive thing where it's the between the brain and the mouth and everything. Stuff just gets slowed down and jammed up in between, which is terrible. Um, the election result may end up like Reagan's second term now. Yeah, I mean Reagan getting shot certainly, again, and I don't believe that there was a conspiracy. I don't think Reagan set it up or anything like that, but it certainly benefited Reagan. So what can we do? I have no idea. A 20-year-old probably just wanted to get famous, but I'm sure 20-year-olds don't think they're going to die really, and if they do, they imagine they probably don't realize it until the moment that they're actually shot. So I mean, who knows? HT, good to see you. Been following the Twitter thread. Nice to see my channel. Thanks for doing the stream, by the way. Hey, HT, great to have you in here. Thank you for following. Nice to have someone who actually, pardon me, pardon me. It's nice actually, since I do put a lot out on Twitter, it's nice to have someone acknowledging the thread there. But yeah, the other thing, of course, however, was that yes, Abe was not running to be PM again, and he was a former statesman or whatever. When he was assassinated, don't forget Kishida. There was an assassination attempt on Kishida, which almost nobody paid attention to, and he was a sitting prime minister. So yeah, there are people in every country who are completely off their rockers. Yes, there are, but the combination of that and the quasi-religious / constitutional right for any nut job with a conspiracy theory and psychiatric problems to have a gun gives it a flavor in America that's unique. But you're right, every country has those 400 million people. I mean, it's kind of amazing in a way that he can do those outdoor rallies like that. But we'll see what happens. So yeah. Anyway, remarkable day. We're still going to find out more, but I'm sure that a lot of mileage will be made out of this. That will be his election poster, and it'll be the election poster by which he will win. And I don't know if that's what the 20-year-old was going for, but that's what he got. So yeah. Anyway. I haven't been talking a lot today. I've had a quiet day, so now that I'm talking, I'm just realizing as well. Oh, I'm just, it's like I've got a frog in my throat. Anyway, I haven't been coughing most of the day. So all that said, there are a ton, because I also wasn't feeling well most of this week, I actually was not even looking at the news or posting on Twitter. So I pretty much did a huge catch up today, which was probably a welcome distraction to people who wanted to avoid looking at the inevitable news, which is taking up everything. I mean, the home feeds on everything are ridiculous. And I think I posted briefly about the shooting at one stage, and the responses I saw were like, okay, I'm not going to post about that anymore. But yes, thank you for allowing me to get this out of my system here. Neutral on good or bad or anything like that. I mean, the shooting is clearly bad, but in terms of the outcome, this seals the outcome. And the outcome was already decided, I think, in terms of the election. The world is already getting used to it, including me, and trying to see positives and negatives. But wow, this has just changed everything. So yes. So going into what I've been tweeting today, let's get into Twitter. I will do some music afterwards as well. But yeah. And by the way, good to see other people have been rocking. And we've got HT, we've got Sadiq. Good to have you in here, Sadiq. Hope everyone, particularly in America, is okay. Hey, Ben Duncan, good to see Trump as the new 50 Cent. Yes, I know everybody having trouble getting over the loss of Richard Simmons and the non-loss of others. But yeah, oh God, don't say that too soon. Yes, I saw this. I thought this was both cool and alarming at the same time. You can now, for just $50 a month, carry a backpack satellite Starlink service. Stay connected no matter how remote. Starlink Mini is now available. I know lawyers who are far too connected, and this is why I was never a partner at a law firm or wanted to be a partner at a law firm, because they literally go on vacations and spend the whole vacations on the phone, looking after business deals and stuff like that. So when they take vacations, these partners I know from the law firm I used to work at literally go into like safari in Kenya or remote Alaska. They go to places specifically that do not have cell phone coverage or internet coverage so that they can have a vacation with a valid alibi for being disconnected for the entire trip. I mean, literally, they go like to Antarctica to avoid this. And now with this $50 a month, there is now no longer anywhere left in the world. Maybe Antarctica. I think there's less coverage of satellites down there. But yeah, remarkable bit of technology. New spacesuit design can recycle astronauts' urine into purified drinkable water, which is both remarkable technology and probably something to leave off the recruitment posters. I mean, when you actually hear about what's involved with being in space, as much as a sci-fi fan and as much as I would absolutely go into space, when you hear about the side effects of it, some of them permanent, what it does to the spinal fluid, to your eyeballs overswelling, to the headaches, to the constant sense of spinning and being, with your inner ears floating. And there's actually some serious, like it does damage to your internal organs, and there's all sorts of problems with it. But yes, on top of that, knowing that you will be drinking your own urine, even if it's purified. But there you go. Some people might do that. Have I ever tried breath work? I'm not sure. I think I've heard the phrase, but the fact I'm not exactly familiar probably means no. I mean, and now is bad. I grew up with asthma, by the way. I've just got this tickle at the back of my throat at the moment, which is it's just a legacy. I'm over the cold, but yeah. More stuff. The Japanese Ministry of Defense, at the same time as Japan, has been lobbying to be allowed into the Spy Alliance, the Five Eyes Spy Alliance, with New Zealand, Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, and United States of America. Japan has this track record with spies and confidential information of basically being totally incompetent. When I got to Japan in 1999, there was a scandal around the year 2000 where Japan's equivalent of CIA, it's sort of its de facto spy agency, had a full list of employee names and addresses leaked onto the internet publicly, like where every employee, can you imagine if every employee of the CIA's, like if there's an employee list published on the internet? And from there, everything else. Timothy Langley was talking about this today, how, the problem is just the culture of bureaucrats and buddies and friends, that people just sort of loosely, hey, just since we're having a drink and we're good mates, let me tell you this sort of secret. It's sort of common stuff. And part of it's, it's stuff like bid rigging on defense contracts and all that sort of thing. But a lot of these cases, these people disciplined was simply leaking state secrets. Japan didn't even have a state secret law until like 2 years ago. And now that they have one, they're sort of proving just that they really can't be trusted to keep any sort of secret. Just I remember years ago there was actually a specific thing highlighted how while the percentage of the overall population of men married to Chinese women is something like, it's not zero, it's like 0.05% or something like that. Apparently in the Japanese self-defense forces, the percentage of officers married to Chinese citizen wives is something like 10% or 20% or something ridiculous, which itself, I remember it being found in an investigation highlighted as are we sure this is okay? But this is one of the many reasons why Japan, they want to be in the club, but they don't want to actually do what's required to, they can't be trusted with the information to be in there. So there you go. I'm glad that you've done that. The cold plunge. Okay, now I'm curious. I'm coming back. Drinking your urine. Yeah, call him Bear Grylls, indeed. Breath work. So Lara seems to know what breath work is. I'm not so familiar. Aaron, without any hint of sarcasm, saying we should feel sorry for those poor lawyers. No, you don't have to feel sorry for the poor lawyers. They get paid very, very well. I mean, everybody likes to make fun of lawyers. I get it. But the thing is, like when you're having your worst day, when you're accused of, doing the worst things possible, in the end of the day, there may be a situation which I hope nobody here ever experiences where your only friend, the only person who's going to be literally working themselves to death exclusively and zealously in your interest is going to be a lawyer. Like it's our job is to, basically spend day and night working to protect, the rights of the people of our clients. So yeah, these people who are working themselves to death are doing it not for themselves. I mean, yeah, they're getting paid and they're getting rewarded and they're getting compensated, but they're doing it for the sake of, their clients. And me, I don't want to work for clients that hard. I'm not that good a lawyer. I don't want to. Although I did think it was ridiculous that people would actually like go literally hiking in remote Alaska, and they would literally rather than fight bears than see another email. To me, that's a time to go in-house and take it easy a little bit. But yes, I realize that that's generally speaking, society doesn't have a great deal of sympathy for lawyers, and yes, I do understand why that is. So yeah, Russian deputy prime minister, just because they weren't causing enough trouble on other people's land that they stole, decided to pay a visit to the islands of Hokkaido that they took from Japan at the end of World War II. I did recall that Japan did some military exercises that, for some reason, upset Russia a lot when HIMARS was like wiping out and causing a reversal of Russia getting kicked out of most of Ukraine. Japan said, "Hey, we've got some HIMARS. Why don't we test those right beside Russia, right beside the occupied islands?" And I don't know. My personal suggestion is that if the vice, I mean, again, it's a provocation for a leader to visit stolen territory. So I don't know. My suggestion is maybe Japan could fire up the HIMARS. But yeah, Russia's still trying to make people feel good that they can steal land and sort of get away with it. I guess that's a feel-good story domestically. I don't know if it's really worth it, given how many people they're losing in the cause of trying to steal land from Ukraine. Whether anyone thinks it's worth the hundreds of thousands of lives that they've lost, but there we go. At least, hey, they've got some islands in remote Siberia where, ironically, the only people who live there are deported Ukrainians from after World War II. But there you go. Still winning. Pardon me. What else have we got in here? We've got, so Japan lost to Georgia today, or yesterday. Japan had a person sent off, quite rightly, for an illegal tackle. But Georgia did really well playing in Japan and doing that. It shows that they're still a really strong rugby team. Thank heavens there's no longer any Soviet teams, so that Georgia gets an independent team, makes it easy to support them. Lawyers are expensive. Well, yes, it depends on if you're paying the full rate. The people who are going to be carrying those Starling things on their back are very expensive. But yes, lawyers win no matter what. That is true. I was actually told, I remember when I'd already decided I was going to go to law school from high school. And I remember we had the careers days, and one by one different people sort of come in and tell you about their jobs. And I remember this hadn't even occurred to me because I thought being a lawyer was like being on TV doing like criminal cases. But a lawyer came to my school and he was sort of telling my class, boys' school. So, he's like, "Okay, boys, now look, when you're considering what sort of professions to do, and, the economy is going all over the place, and if you're thinking about a job that's stable, well, here's the thing. When the economy is good, like it is right now, and everybody's doing deals and everybody's, building new buildings and doing new projects, and it's very exciting. Everyone's writing contracts for those, and everyone needs lawyers for those. So lawyers are always really busy when the economy's really good. But then when the economy turns around and it collapses and nobody can afford to pay anymore, and, they're shutting down these projects and they're withholding payments and they're canceling everything, well, then they all start fighting with each other, and then they need lawyers for that as well. So then lawyers get really busy. So basically, you can't go wrong. I had decided, I had really, I remember somebody pointing out that yes, that lawyers always do well on that. I guess unless they're fighting bears in Alaska. Okay, be nice to the lawyers, please. Rolling Stones on AC/DC. Yes, indeed. Yeah, I think absolutely Japan's reliance and both lack of need for it to do anything else. I mean, America obviously immediately regretted the pacifism clause that it wrote into Japan's constitution. But yeah, it's absolutely made Japan soft in a sense, but in a good way. That's why I'm here. It's nice to be in a country that's not always ready for war. But there you go. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap, or as the Australians sometimes will sing to New Zealanders, dirty deeds done with sheep. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, the Tokyo election, just more fallout from the Tokyo election. The backlash against the corruption in the LDP, all the kickbacks that they were taking and so on. The fact that they still have Yuko Power Drill Obuchi, a woman who destroyed the accounting records of her own collection of illegal donations by using power tools to destroy the computer hard disk with her accounting records in it, and that she's in charge of LDP strategy in elections where they're trying to convince people that they're not corrupt anymore. The LDP thought in Tokyo they would stand candidates in 8 of 9 assembly seats that were up for grabs, expecting to win 6. They only won 2. And so the head of strategy is like, yeah, we really need to reform and try to change our image about this. I'm like, yeah, you think? So LDP still doing badly. Give me a moment. Just need to clear my throat. Yeah, it was always tough growing up in Australia as a New Zealander. New Zealanders don't really we just make fun of Australians as murderers and rapists, but Australians are much more brutal, making fun of us for fucking sheep. But there you go. Aussies genuinely make actual jokes, whereas Kiwis just try to basically be mean back and grumbly. So yeah, Aussies I think always sort of win those encounters. A remarkable news story from this week is a Chinese woman who was sitting in one of those little beach rings on Shirahama, Ohama, basically off Shimoda at the very bottom of Shizuoka Prefecture. Shizuoka Prefecture, the peninsula, Izu Peninsula, looks exactly like Chiba. It's like another Chiba Boso Peninsula just further down the coast. So she was down that area, beautiful area, one of my favorite beach areas in Japan. Shimoda has amazing world-class beaches, and it's only like 2 or 3 hours away from Tokyo. So this woman was down there sitting in the ocean off Shimoda and apparently got swept out to sea. The black current, which comes up from like Taiwan, Philippines and Taiwan and Okinawa, this sort of warm water current, very, very famous. It comes all the way up, halfway up Chiba, and the water temperature to where it comes up to is actually like warm all year round. And the other current, which comes down from Siberia and the Bering Strait, comes also down to Chiba, and they like meet in the middle. So this Chinese woman was in a floaty ring off the bottom of Shizuoka, and she got swept out to sea. 36 hours she was floating in the ocean, and she was rescued off Tateyama, which is basically the very bottom of the Chiba Peninsula. And again, Chiba kind of comes in this shape. It kind of basically droops down like, I mean, I don't know, how would you describe it? I won't describe it. If you look at a map, you can get an idea, you can come up with metaphors for what it looks like. But basically, both Shizuoka and Chiba both have like basically comes down to a point at the bottom. And it's on both of those peninsulas at the bottom that you have these amazing, beautiful beaches and great waves. But when it's kind of freaky, I've surfed in both, but particularly in Chiba, when you surf in Tateyama, you realize that on a normal beach, if you drift sideways, that's okay. You drift sideways along the coast, you just come in and walk back, or you paddle back around sideways. But with Chiba, the beach is like a point, and there's nothing but ocean all around. So literally, when you paddle out, you're surrounded. There's only like a little point of land in front of you there. And if you drift sideways, you can't get back to the beach. It's like on a clock, it's like literally between 11:30 and 12:30 is land, and the rest is all ocean. And the currents drag you sideways. So I've been surfing off Tateyama, and I've had moments where you get a kind of an agoraphobia, because you sort of realize how vulnerable you are, that if you get caught up in the Kuroshio, you get swept out into the Pacific Ocean. And that's what happened to this woman. She got swept up 36 hours. She drifted from Shizuoka all the way to Chiba, where, thank heavens, she was picked up. But I've had moments fearing exactly that happening as a surfer. that said, she went to probably two of my favorite beaches in Japan. I would say that she was lucky if it weren't for the fact, for the dehydration and life-endangering experience that happened in between the two. But yeah, no, that's like a remarkable thing that happened. Thank heavens they found her. But yeah, it also just shows just what an amazingly reliable current that is. That is scary indeed. Akasan saying that's his favorite beach as well, which it is. Both are great beaches actually, but just a reminder, yeah, don't swim too far out from shore. Remember, listen to what your mum used to say. China's very upset that a Japanese self-defense force ship temporarily crossed into Chinese waters, or this is at the same time that China's been sailing patrol boats around these Okinawa and Senkaku islands like every day for the last like 10 years. So I suppose, yeah, they can be outraged at other people, but what can you do? How did she get back to the beach as she's awkward to get her belongings? I'm hoping she wasn't there on her own, but there you go. DJ Sunny side up. You were once rescued in California when you started learning how to surf in San Diego. Wow. Okay, that's scary. And San Diego's cold as well. So, hey, Void Theft. Good to see you, Void Theft. I've actually had a couple of scary experiences. Probably, I think I might have mentioned before, the scariest experience I've ever had being caught in a rip, being caught in a current surfing, was in San Francisco. I remember the first day I landed in San Francisco, I went by the beach. I saw the currents off the main beach. You could see whirlpools on the main open beach, like not even in the bay, but actually on the open Pacific coast. The currents are so crazy there that there are whirlpools off a regular straight line flat beach. I saw it and I thought, and this was December, this was midwinter. I saw it and I thought, wow, that is the most dangerous looking ocean I've ever seen, and I would never get in that myself. But when I was at work with lawyers, one of the guys there, long blonde-haired guy, sort of said, "Hey, dude, it came up that we surfed," and he said, "Dude, I'll take you out." I was like, "Are you crazy? I saw the ocean." He said, "Yeah, you come out. I'll show you where to go. Come out with me. You'll be okay. I'll bring a wetsuit." So we did. He put on the wetsuit. I put on the wetsuit. We got into the ocean. It was December in San Francisco. It was the coldest water I've ever been in. Like normally there's a moment when you dive into the water and the ice water comes into your suit, and you freeze for a moment, and your body warms up the water. There's kind of a really unpleasant 2 or 3 minutes where you're in like an ice shower. But this was more intense than anything. Like this is like full like lung paralysis, freezing cold. And it took a while to get through that, but also the sea was rough and the waves were really big, so you couldn't really see ahead or behind yourself very, very well. So I just paddled out after this guy, and it was too rough. The waves were breaking. We're trying to get out to the other side of the waves, but the waves just kept breaking a long way out. We paddled a long way, and I think, yeah, we were sitting up, but just at one point, you couldn't really see the shore. And at one point, we sort of popped up and said, "Let's take a break and check." And I guess we both thought we were about 50 to 100 yards off the shore. We popped up, we're about 500 yards from the shore. You could barely make out people walking on the shore. And we realized that we were in a rip. And it took 2 or 3 hours for us to paddle back to the beach. And my feet were so frozen, I couldn't stand up on the board after even when I got on waves. I did see the sun come up, beautiful sunrise come up over the Golden Gate Bridge. I could actually see around the corner of the entrance to the bay, so I could see the bridge. So that part, when we took a breather from paddling again, basically getting out of the rip, paddling sideways and coming out. But this was freezing cold, middle of winter, no other people around, caught in a rip, in a beach where there are great white sharks, and where I was exhausted. If I hadn't been with someone else, I would have died. Yeah, I've experienced, at least with the Kuroshio, it would have been warm, and there's a less risk of great white sharks. So yeah, that was a scary day. So yeah, I know California is not to be messed with, and I wouldn't go in an ocean I didn't know without someone who knew the place, But even this guy, he was a local, and we both still got swept out. So yeah. Anyway, moving on. Japan this week, the yen. Pardon me. The yen got up to 162. Again, as cheap, the record cheapness. So the Bank of Japan jumped in. It looks like they sold 3 trillion yen worth of US dollars to cause the yen to go back down to 150 57 yen to the dollar, and then like 2 or 3 days later, the complete effect was gone. I must admit, I wrote here, they make it sound like that they spent some 3 trillion yen on intervention. Someone corrected me and said, because I said it sounds like they're burning money and it's not having much effect. Is that really a good idea? Someone corrected and pointed out that they're just cashing in their trade reserves, which they probably bought when the yen was, when dollars were a lot more expensive. Were a lot cheaper. So they've actually made a good profit. They're locking in the profits that they've made on US currency that they've bought. So from that perspective, it's not exactly burning money. But still, the effects are temporary and it seems kind of pointless. So, yeah, it dropped, but just for a short time. So it's still going. 98% of people with mixed Japanese heritage experience microaggressions. For example, half Japanese-looking people get complimented on how well they speak Japanese. And the definition of a microaggression being something which is perhaps not intended in a malevolent way. Maybe it's meant almost in a nice way, but kind of in a way that conveys a negative assumption about a person. Like, for example, you see someone who's half Japanese, the assumption that they're not able to speak Japanese when they are Japanese. The compliment might come from a good place, but it reflects a prejudicial belief that they don't speak Japanese, which, isn't really fair for a Japanese person, especially when you have to face that all the time. So I'm surprised in a way it's only 98% from that perspective. Yeah, but that is a thing. A Japanese person in Hawaii was caught taking 2 hand grenades onto a plane. I mentioned this very, very briefly earlier. And he was arrested for, I mean, in a way, I'm kind of relieved that you can get arrested for taking anything onto an airplane in America, because we do have this problem in Japan where Americans, apparently, it is actually okay in America to take guns onto planes, right? So long as the ammunition is stored separately from the gun, you can take both ammunition and firearms onto planes in America, which to me is as ridiculous as being able to take hand grenades. So I suppose in the enthusiasm of being in America, a Japanese person thinking that they could pack, I mean, again, Americans are not infrequently getting arrested when they land in other countries with their suitcases containing bullets. And, a bullet is treated the same as having a loaded gun in Japan, which American gun, I've seen Twitter threads of people, American gun fans, pointing out how ridiculous and how much of a violation of our rights it is to treat ammunition the same as it is a firearm. But yeah, they say, do you have any explosive materials? And yeah, the bullets are little explosives. And, people in Japan have been arrested for showing up in Japan because they forgot they left a magazine full of ammo in their suitcase and they came to Japan. And don't bring your guns and or ammunition to Japan. However, this case was a 41-year-old Japanese guy who was in Hawaii. And as you do in Hawaii, just wanted to buy a few souvenirs of a couple of live grenades and threw them in a suitcase and tried to board the airplane in Hawaii and is now being arrested on terror offenses. To which I am glad that America does have a line somewhere. Again, it baffles me that you're even allowed to take ammunition onto planes, but at least there is a line. Live grenades are apparently not permitted on airplanes, so just remember that next time you travel. Just make sure if you have hand grenades in your suitcase to remove them first. No idea. No word on what, if it was Japan, they would say, the police would release the confession of the person with it who would say, oh yes, love me some hand grenades. I love them. I love them. I love to pack them in my suitcase. I totally did it. There'd be some statement that would be basically prepared by the police, regardless of what the actual story is, just a complete confession. America doesn't do that. So we don't actually know the motive of the person in this case, or what the hell they were thinking. But yes, arrested for level 1 terror threats. I don't know. So it's possible he actually was a wannabe terrorist, although I find that hard to believe. But there you go. Someone tried boarding with a hand grenade. So yeah. Tremors Tenshi had a US soldier once escorted by German police to check his luggage because US Army failed to notify the airline and airport that he checked in 25 kilograms of ammo. But I guess I mean, when you have all the U.S. forces there and the U.S. Army, it's possible they're actually. I mean, but again, why would you on a civilian flight carry ammo? Like, to me, that's a bit too much. But there you go. Interesting note here. I did not know this. Apparently, the guy whose name I should be able to remember. I think it's like Shibusawa Eichi or something. You know what? Someone pointed out to me I shouldn't show the website where this is from, the aggregate internet commenting website, because the quasi pornographic ads all around the actual comments. It's one of the few websites where you always say don't look at the comments, whereas in this website it's like the only thing that's safe to look at is the comments. Everything else on the page is not safe to look at. Apparently the guy on that bill, a famous womanizer, a lover of many, many, many women. So much so that apparently some etiquette coaches are now saying that at weddings in Japan, whenever you go to a wedding, you typically have to pay a gift. If you're like a close family, whatever amount you give, it's always in tens of thousands of yen, which is basically hundreds of US dollars. You can't give a unit that can be divided by two because they might get divorced. So it's got to be like if you're a close family, if you're family, it'll be 70,000 yen. If you're like really close friend or really close, maybe a manager at work or something like that, you might pay 50,000 yen. And if you're if just a regular attendee, you'll pay 30,000 yen. However, some people pointing out that when you pay it, it's always a thing that you go and take out freshly, uncreased notes. The etiquette around wedding stuff is just such a headache in Japan. But some people pointing out that giving notes of a famous Playboy cheater on his wife of these bills would constitute bad manners. So please only use the older 10,000 yen notes, which these notes, of course, all the main notes in Japan were replaced this week. My suggestion is the easiest solution is, just for the sake of etiquette and protection of the future health of the marriage, is just to give 3,000 yen instead of 30,000 yen. I would hate to curse increase the risk of divorce by giving 30,000 yen with a 100-year-old womanizer on the note. I think it would just be safer to give 1,000 yen note. That's my etiquette lesson for today. Although if you get in trouble for it, please do not quote me. Yes, Japanese reactions to the assassination attempt today, talking about the heroic picture of Trump basically is going to be his winning election poster. Somebody below pointing out, dude, the ads on that website, please stop using it. Okay, maybe a good idea. So yes, I got some ad where there's apparently, like make an entry and get 5 chances to win or something. It looked like a great opportunity if it weren't for the naked anime sex picture that was being used for the advertisement. Probably better not to click. Yes. Most convenience staff now, at least around Tokyo now, are not only now foreign, have foreign staff, but actually, increasingly you can sort of see they're young foreign people, and it turns out that it's rapidly becoming foreign exchange students in there, which I think is great. It also points out how dependent Japan is becoming on these sort of foreign students to basically keep all these convenience stores alive. If Japan would ever tighten up on immigration or anything like that, they'd probably have to shut down like a significant percentage of convenience stores in Japan because they're having trouble staffing them. And they're only staying open at the moment with these foreigners and with these foreign students. So in a way, I think it's a good thing. It locks in our presence and our appreciation here. But there we go. Yeah, void theft. I had a cold this week. It's actually kind of gone, but I ran a race yesterday, so I've got a bit lingering. So this is sort of after lingering. And also, I haven't really been talking that much today, so just talking is bringing it up a little bit. I apologize for the coughing, though. These crayons are a cool idea. Spoon and Tamago pointing out that they actually make these crayons actually out of different types of trees. So they've got, for example, cedar and if I can zoom in on this. I mean, basically hinoki and cedar and, or cypress trees and so on. On the one hand, I thought, well, this is really kind of cool that they've got this crayons of the forest made with the actual materials of the trees to get the colors accurate. Then it also occurred to me, oh, I'm probably allergic to like 6 out of these 10 colors. I'm probably going to be collapsing, sneezing all over the place while I use these crayons. But I do think it's a very cool idea. It's a cool idea, but just I'd have to probably take antihistamine before I use them. Um, a moment of silence for the 2,000 yen note that was not included on the renewals. It's like the band got back together, but the 2,000 yen bill wasn't invited. It's a cool note, and it's kind of convenient to have a 2,000 yen note as an extra denomination. But yeah, they never made many of them. If you go to the bank and you ask for them, they keep supplies and they will give them to you. I know a guy at work who uses them as a conversation starter. Yeah, and it's true. Everyone's always happy to get a 2,000 yen note. Some people don't, even know what it is. They were only issued about 20 years ago. DJay, signing up. You've never seen a 2,000 yen note. They issued a whole bunch of them around 2000. It was an economic stimulus idea from Yuko Obuchi's father, Keizo Obuchi, a prime minister who died on the job. It didn't really have any effect on the economy, and it was just sort of inconvenient because you couldn't use it in vending machines or a lot of machines or anything like that. But yeah, they are a cool note. They've got the Okinawan sort of castle shrine on it, and yeah, not very useful, but cool to have around. And people always will have a nice conversation with you if you have one, and people hold on to them just because they're rare. Tamiya, the model factory, they've got like a huge new factory building in Tokyo. So if you're ever into models or anything like that, probably like there's a theme park type building just dedicated to it. Whereabouts is it located, actually? I should have had that on the top of mind. It is somewhere in Tokyo, I think. Shinbashi, Toranomon area. So they've got a new building. So if you're ever into the remote control cars or model making, I mean, this is one thing I love about Japan that I say here, is that whatever crazy, small hobby you have, there's either an entire neighborhood or a theme park sized building dedicated to whatever hobby you have, any hobby you can think of. So, yeah, I enjoy that about Japan. Fukuoka, best place to live in Japan. There's a big article by Gaijin Pot just going through why Fukuoka is just considered one of the best places in Japan to live. It's cheap. The rent and cost of living is cheap, but you could earn good income. It's a good sized city. It's got everything. It's got an airport, that international airport in the middle of the city, really convenient. Great transport in the city. Shinkansen's going everywhere. It's a great city. Also from a digital nomad type perspective as well, it's actually very well connected with high-speed internet. The IT company I work in that supports a lot of startups have more startup business customers in Fukuoka than they have in Osaka. Osaka's a manufacturing town, so it's a real startup town. As well as, yeah, Fukuoka's a great place, as well as it's my Japanese hometown. So, yeah. Interesting. Aaron's had a lot of friends who are lifers in Japan who moved from Nagoya to Fukuoka. I can understand both leaving Nagoya and moving into Fukuoka together and separately. That sentence makes a lot of sense. I get in trouble for making too much fun of Nagoya sometimes, but yeah, I totally get that. Coming up on time, but yeah, it's kind of funny. So this person, Massimo, did a table explaining Japanese emoticons, and these are definitely true. This is how Japanese use typed emoticons. And I do like that they've got a lot more nuance than English emoticons. However, Gaijin Mummy updated this to so many tourists. I'm from Kyoto, so the snobby look. Kubus is not cool enough. What the fuck, America? Again, she is a genius and she deserves World Heritage Protection status. This guy who took that photo, to me, the whole thing about this day is that photo. The guy who took it while bullets were flying. Regardless of what you think of the people involved in the incident, like that photographer deserves an award. And oh yeah, and I'll finish it up. Here's my run from yesterday. So I I took the camera out just for a warm up. Kasai Seaside Park, Kasai Rinkai Koen. It's one of the really nicest parks in Tokyo. Actually, it's right before Disneyland. It still is within Tokyo, but it's on the Tokyo Bay waterfront. It's a big, beautiful park. You get to run around on the path like that. There's palm trees. It was raining before, so this is during the warm up. I was running around just going for a jog in the rain. I took the camera with. Of course, I put the camera away during the race. This was just as I was getting ready. And in terms of how it went, so the plan was to not run crazy fast, to not run 4.5 minute kilometers in the beginning and fall away and get more and more miserable and slower as the race went on, as has happened in my other races. The goal was to run 5:45 for the first 15 kilometers. And while I did not stick to that plan, this whole time my heart rate was in zone 2, which is basically jogging and feeling comfortable, not feeling particularly stressed. So I was pretty comfortable. And I did stay above 5 minutes per kilometer, pretty much as you can see. So 5:30, 5:10, 5:12, 5:05, 5:06. I found someone to run with as well, which was sort of good for pacing. There was nice chatting to a couple of people while I was running. And then at about the 15K mark, I decided, okay, let's pick it up and get a little bit uncomfortable. I kind of thought just for a few extra seconds over a kilometer, I felt so much more miserable and my heart rate was going so much higher. But yeah, final kilometer, I really picked it up and went for 4.5. But I actually ended up getting 10 seconds faster than a race where I ran the first half of the race at like 4 minutes 45, 4 minutes 40, 4 minutes 30 for the whole first half. And then I just collapsed in the second half. Whereas this time you could see I was actually getting faster as I went along. So this gives me confidence I could do a full marathon. And this is how my heart rate was. So for me, zone 3, which is, like a high heart rate, like feeling stressed, is 153. So I was pretty much below that until about the 3/4 mark. As you can see, zone 2 is moderate. I was comfortable. So I was actually running pretty comfortably for most of that, and I got a really good time. So I was very happy with how that went. Still got a bit of a cold as a result, but that is how all of that went. Oh, that's right. And then I finally logged in and saw what happened and saw the internet reactions, and that was me. So it's been a big day. Yeah. Void theft. Yeah, I've seen you've been posting some videos on AI and the news today. Again, I don't, yeah. Other than to say, of course, it's a bad thing, and it's not really about when someone gets shot. It's not really maybe it is about politics, but for me, that's not politics. People getting shot. Of course, I'm curious, like everyone else, as to what actually happened, who the shooter was, why everything played out as it did. I am glad that Trump is okay, and but I also recognize that this is going to probably transform the election in a way that I think it's no longer a contest. We'll see what happens though. Rest in peace indeed, Richard Simmons and Sex Grandma. I tell you what, after a few weeks of playing high-tempo music, I am going to be focusing on playing chill music, and I am going to make a request of you all that when I take requests, I need you all to make chill music requests. I will go with that. And yeah, so I'm gonna set up for the after party. Keep hanging around if you want to keep me company for some music. I'm gonna see what I can play for some mellow music, and if not, I'll see. Have a good week, everybody. Stay safe. Don't get a cold like I did. Follow me on Twitter, and see you same bat time, same bat channel next week. Thanks for keeping me company. Thanks for so many people popping in again, and boom, peace. Chill True Life crew it is. I'm sure they must have had a couple of love songs. So yeah, we'll see what we can do. I'll see you in the after party. So catch you soon. See ya.